the future of drone warfare. The latest India Pakistan conflict on the border has presented new challenges and perhaps opportunities for defense equipment and the role of private sector in it. For one, drones have played a significant role in also delivering payloads in the latest conflict. Drones are also changing the nature of air warfare across the world, including the Russia Ukraine war, with Ukraine using drones of varying degrees of sophistication to level the playing field in more ways than one. The future of drone warfare means a blending of the physical aeronautical capability of unmanned aerial vehicles or UAVs with the intelligence that goes into it, including the artificial intelligence that will determine and respond to threats, including electronic warfare. So, how is India's well known drone maker IdeaForge gearing up for this world, and how have things changed after the India Pakistan conflict? I spoke with Ankit Mehta, co founder and CEO of the Mumbai based IdeaForge, and I began by asking him the one thing that had changed in the last 2 weeks.
First of all, for not just us, but for everybody, it's become real, right? Earlier, when Galwan happened, what was real was observation. We had perhaps very little observation on the other side, and we went ahead and we fixed observation. Now, in this scenario, we are also looking at observation because it is required to pick up targets, but we need action as well. So that has become very real now for everybody. And in terms of the reality, also the reality of what we are observing in other wars as well, the electronic warfare, because you are trying to prevent the adversary from enter your territory. You are also trying to make sure that you can enter the other territory. So how to be resilient against electronic warfare, that again is a very big reality, which we have been already building for. Now the urgency to induct systems of that nature will really come up in a very big way, right? We launched Netra 5 at the beginning of the year with exactly those capabilities as to how we can be resistant to electronic warfare and make sure that we are able to create an end effect. And we are trying to see that it's become very real now.
And what does Netra 5 do?
See, Netra 5 is a quadcopter platform that we launched. It's a folding quadcopter platform that can be launched from a relatively more compact form factor than earlier. Be able to do really long flight time missions while being able to resist electronic warfare in terms of it can operate in GPS denied conditions. It can operate in conditions where there is a bunch of jamming, so it does frequency hopping. It also has got a very unique capability of doing broadcast communication in the sense that it can basically do persistent downlink. So that is again something that nobody else has. Then it also has the ability to take a payload. So it can be leveraged for precision payload delivery in certain circumstances. It is also something that has a lot of other features in terms of obstacle sensing and obstacle avoidance. So it's a very unique quadcopter drone that we've launched. It's one of the most advanced systems in the world of that nature and sort of packs everything that is becoming very real now in this war.
Right. And one of the things we've been seeing, for example, in the Russia-Ukraine war is the use of drones. And also, I mean, the interesting use of them because people are really sitting in bunkers with soldering irons and wires and putting them together. It's also changed the dynamics of war. And I guess that's what's evident in our context as well, and maybe in future too. So what does that mean for you as a company?
For us as a company, I think it's very clear that earlier one used to think that there is only one sort of use case, one approach, one specific category that needs to be built. Now we are realizing that we need capabilities and assets across all categories of platforms. And therefore, as a business, we've also started to build multiple categories of platforms. Each category of platform has a different capability. There are platforms that can do observation by taking off at a much longer range or a much shorter range, depending on who's carrying the asset. And then it's also about how and where can you cause an end effect and at what range can you cause an end effect. So if you want to penetrate sufficiently while remaining within your territory, then you need to have long range assets. You need to also have the capability of resisting or getting detected. So there are so many things, and all of them are getting visually, are being validated. For example, there are drones that are being used, which are just, FPV drones, where drones are just taking off from somebody wearing a goggles and they're going and causing an effect. All of it is because of the EW resilience, which is a problem. So depending on how you want to scale, and right way to scale has to be determined for every country. But ultimately, we have to realize the balance of what is going to be the training deck if we don't use autonomy, what is going to be the cost of war if we don't use assets which are multi-role, and then what is going to be the end effect that we want to cause and the precision with which we want to cause. So all of that has to be thought through before we arrive at what's really going to be leveraged or needs to be leveraged.
Right. And when you think about the drone company like yours, I'm sure you started with mapping, surveillance, agriculture, and I don't know whether they are called low hanging fruit or high hanging fruit, but they're definitely businesses that are more accessible. What's your current sort of portfolio when it comes to defense linked applications versus others? And do you see that changing?
So pure defense applications, pure applications where we work with the defense of the country, it's about 60% last year, and another 40% was civil use cases. Now, civil use cases also have a mix of surveillance and mapping applications. Surveillance may still be heavier because that's a area where we have a lot of civil conflict as well that we need to work towards and resolve. So it is usually heavier towards surveillance related applications. It is also going to be increasing on the geospatial side with the National Geospatial Mission taking up and picking up a lot of steam from the end of the last year.
And what's changing in the heart of the system? So, one is the flying part of it, the aeronautical part of it, but within the drone itself, I mean, you talked about jamming capability and GPS denial, ability to work without GPS and so on. So, what else is on the horizon there?
What is going to be very critical going forward is apart from GPS denial, having resilient communications, having the ability to carry multiple payloads or have modularity in payloads, etc., is going to be the requirement for AI on the edge. You need compute on the edge. You need to make sure that, as the tactics evolve in the field, as we do something, there will be a reaction. We need to adapt ourselves to change our tactics. All of that's going to be possible when there is intelligence on the edge, when there is some form of capability of updating the algorithm, updating the AI to detect something new or to take a different action. So that's going to be critical. Multi-agent systems will become very critical because you need that one person can operate many systems and you can overwhelm the enemy defenses, etc. So there are going to be these kind of very critical changes that's going to happen to make sure that we have more capable systems going forward.
And I mean, are some of your systems sort of entering that world wherein you're carrying ammunition or destructive payloads?
So I think our systems are capable of carrying payloads. And usually we don't, from the factory ship anything on the system that can cause an end effect. Typically, the end user will leverage the payload capacity the way they deem it's useful.
Right. So, as you look ahead, what are the challenges that you see becoming, let's say, more competitive and cutting edge? When I say cutting edge in a global context, and what are the opportunities as well?
If we do all the things we said, right, if we are able to do very good in EW resistance and resilience against those systems, if we have multi role assets, if we have assets that have intelligence on the edge, I think we will, at least for a short period of time, we have the ability to program ourselves to do almost what is desired on the field, even if there are changes on the other side. But having said that, we also need to acknowledge that there will be a need for better performance on the systems because the delta on technology or tactics may get caught up, but the delta on performance, raw performance, may not get caught up. Like, for example, a BrahMos is an edge that you can't catch up to simply by changing tactics, right? You have to catch up to that with technology. So I think it's going to be very similar on drones as well. So it will be very clear that what echelon is carrying what type of asset and how good is that asset as compared to what the adversary will carry in their echelon, as same echelon or similar echelon. So you need that kind of superiority, not just parity, but you now need to look at superiority of whether your assets are matching or better in that one sense.
Right. Last question. You're a bunch of engineers from IT who started this company, but today, in terms of the time you devote, how much of it is, let's say, on the aeronautical side, how much of it is on the computing and the intelligence that you just spoke of, and how is that going to likely get distributed as you look ahead?
A good part of the team is actually looking at this intelligence capability. It's very clear that that's the future, right? And it's not just that. We need to have connected systems. We need to have the ability to evacuate data from the edge, make it available wherever it is possibly required, make sure that there is an automated end effect that can be taken from some other sensor and created using a drone. So all of this connectedness is the other area that we need to ensure that in the future we are a part of that network, that entire network centric warfare, network centric systems, assets, intelligence. All of that has to tie in together to create a unified field that is automated, because now reaction times are very, very small. Like, you're not going to get too much time where a lot of human intervention and the time gap that they may present can be afforded in a field where you are getting fired upon by missiles and other assets which are kinetic.
Right. Ankit, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much. Real pleasure to be here.